Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, August 16th. It's 10 a.m. on the East Coast. And if you've joined us before, you know that I'm a sales coach and trainer. I work with both individuals and organizations internationally to help them do one thing and one thing only: get measurable and sustainable sales increases. And I founded the Sales Pro Network to elevate the profession of sales. And if you've joined us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, we either do a live training or I bring you someone who can add value to the profession of sales. And my friends, today is no exception. This gentleman is the founder of Sell Nothing and the author of How to Sell Nothing, the logical way to make the emotional sale. He's worked with incredibly well-known companies like State Farm, Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, and a wide variety of others as a trainer and coach. Please welcome Joe Pallo. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Outstanding, man. You?
I'm doing good, and I appreciate you having me on your show. It's been about a year since I think I was on the first one, and been watching you ever since. And I think one thing that's kind of unique with you, and maybe similar, that it appears that you don't have a scarcity mentality when it comes to sales.
No.
And it comes across in what you say. So I figured I'd acknowledge that or share that with you, just that observation.
Yeah. I definitely come from abundance. There's plenty of business for everybody.
Exactly.
I hope every single competitor of mine makes $1 million a year, as long as I make $1 million, because I am competitive.
Sure, just one.
So maybe can you give us the 2 to 3 minute story of your background? Then I got a bunch of questions for you, Joe.
Sure. Just real quick. I started selling books door to door. Didn't know anything about sales. Went down to Charlotte, North Carolina, 80 hours a week, straight commission. Didn't know what I was doing. Didn't even have a car. Just got a bike down there, worked my tail off. The end of the summer, I was in the top 5% in the nation. Got invited back. In the next 6 years, I recruited, trained people on how to sell and run their own business. And I've just been selling ever since. It doesn't matter what the product is. I'm just a salesperson, I guess, a sales guy.
I got it. What kind of books were you selling?
Well, those were some educational books and some Bible books. It was Southwestern Company was the name of the company.
Gotcha. Because I started out selling Encyclopedia Britannica door to door for 8 years.
Yep.
Knocking on doors on evenings and the weekends, and standing in malls and state fairs and trade shows and stuff like that. And boy, oh boy, was that an education.
There's either something wrong with us or we figured out sales. That's it.
It's one or the other. I'm not sure. So, Joe, why do so many people think that sales is a bad word, like a 4-letter word?
Well, I think we've all had that experience with the used car salesman, and you're trying to push something that you don't really know they like or they need or they want. That's just repulsive. I strive to never speak, teach, train, coach, or sell until I get them emotionally engaged. And I really want them to tell me what they want and why they want it. And then I just sell that. It takes the ickiness away. I have to have that piece of mental or emotional engagement before I'm going to even show my product or talk about my product.
Yeah. And you used the word icky just now. That's your 4-letter word, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, that's one of them.
Yeah. When I have a program, Selling for Non-Sales People, and I start out the same way, saying, hey, look, sell is a 4-letter word, but it's not a bad word. Yep. And look, I think we come from the same place. In fact, I think you've used the quote that I use all the time from Zig Ziglar, selling is serving. Yep. Our job is to help others. And when you come from that place, instead of pushing square pegs into round holes and trying to get people to buy things they don't need or don't want or can't afford, it's a very different come from, and that's when you form relationships. One of the things that about you that made me laugh, and there are many so far, but is that you say that it doesn't matter what you're selling, and I'm going to quote you now, it doesn't matter whether you're selling financial services, high technology, or chicken shit, the same core principles apply. I do agree 100%. Could you maybe explain why you say that?
Yeah. And it's kind of when we're talking, it's I'm not a person who swears, except when I use this reference of a story where I sold chicken shit. And this happened years ago when I was in college, and it'll explain the relationship sale piece. I had a roommate, Kevin. They had a chicken farm growing up, 250,000 birds, like a big ranch. And one day his dad called me and said, is Kevin around? He said, no. He said, do you and Kevin want to go south for spring break? And at that time I was going to school in Fargo, North Dakota. And looking out the spring, I see a blizzard. And I'd say, yeah, I'm interested in going south for spring break. I don't even ask any questions. I said, I'm in. I'll have Kevin give you a call. Well, found out, I was thinking, Cabo and, typical summer spring break trips. Sioux Falls, South Dakota is south of Fargo, North Dakota. And the party atmosphere that I was thinking, I was wrong on that. It was a certified organic farmers association. This is before green was cool. And what Kevin's dad had done is he took the chicken shit, he's trying to get rid of it, dried it down and pelletize it. He spun up a little company called Orgro, and we were selling that as a certified organic farmer or like organic fertilizer to the farmers. We had a convention.
Actual bird poop.
Yes, in a baby dried pelletized chicken shit. And we set up our booth just like we've all done, and we have our table and everything else. You look at the brochure, and I'm reading it. Someone like over there looks like they did the exact same thing. So I'm not competitive, but I got to go check them out. So I went over there, and I kind of timed it where someone else was coming up, another group of people were coming up, and I wanted to hear him do his pitch. And again, I knew nothing about farming at that time. I was not very well educated. And this guy who was competing with us, he knew his shit. I mean, I'm sitting there looking at it, and he knew it had the NPK value, could be used as a cattle feed supplement, had no live matter in it. He's talking all this shit, and I'm thinking, holy shit, he knows this shit, and I don't know shit about my shit. And then I started looking at his shit and saying, is his shit better than our shit? Or we have good shit or bad shit? Is there such a thing as good shit? And I'm having all these shitty thoughts going through my head and realizing I'm in deep shit if I got to compete against him. So come back to my booth. I tell Kevin, I said, hey, we're in deep shit because, again, this guy knows their shit. And we're sitting there talking. Sure enough, one of those people who was just pitched coming right to our booth. I tell it to Kevin, and he gets up to go to the bathroom, and he's a chicken, so I had to do it. And I realized I could not talk shit about my product. So I just said, I'm going to keep on asking him questions, just defensive. And it was maybe about 4 minutes. It seemed like 40 days of me talking. And I just started asking questions. Well, how long have you been farming? What percent of your farm's organic? Why did you do that? What's the best thing? I was asking question after question after question because I couldn't talk shit about my shit. And eventually he said the words that every salesperson loves to hear. He said, and I quote, I reckon I might not better ought to get some, which I took means, yes, he wants some. And I said, do you want a half load or a full load? And he said, take a half load. And I said, you want to ship it to your farm or to the place? And he cut me a check. So it realized that it's not the product, it's the relationship. That was kind of the basis of the awakening of how to sell nothing. It's a relationship. It doesn't matter the product because we all sell the same shit. I don't compete on product, but I will compete against the other salesperson, and I'll beat that person.
So even though this guy had a great pitch, you were able to close the deal because you talked to the person in a way you actually found out what they wanted instead of the here's what I've got.
It's what they wanted, and he told me why he wanted what was important to him. I'm establishing a relationship, which is a sense nothing. That's the how to sell nothing. We need that relationship. He doesn't care about the product. He liked me.
Exactly right. I always say people buy people, not products or services. It's that relationship. And you actually wrote a book called How to Sell Nothing, The Logical Way to Make the Emotional Sale by Joe Pallo. And you say until you're okay with selling nothing, you won't sell anything. So what do you mean selling nothing? What does that actually mean?
It kind of goes back to that relationship. And even to tie it into that ickiness of sales, if I take my time and have them tell me what they want and why they want it, that's kind of a serving mentality. We touched on that earlier. I'm really trying to fix their need. If I can't get them there, I'm not going to close. If I do get them there, well, closing just becomes logistics. I mean, if you look at it, let's just say you and I are on a sales call and we're selling, and I'm on my A game and I'm going through the earning process. We can talk on that, the digging questions, and I'm really getting them talking about what they want and why they want it. And we recorded that whole conversation. We come back to your office and we play it back, but we edit out my voice. You know what you're left with? Person sitting across the table from you saying, what are they currently doing? What they like about it, what they want to change, who's going to make the decision, what happens if they don't get it done. I just sell that. It's that simple. It's easier to sell what they want to buy than sell what I want to sell. Think about most of us in sales. I got to sell this. I got to sell this. Let's step away from that. That's the icky part. Figure out what they want to buy. If your product does that, it's just logistics.
So I think you and I are really saying the same thing, that it's not about the pitch. It's really about the questions and the relationship that you develop with somebody when you're actually interested in them and finding out what they truly want, need, can afford, all that stuff. Is that what you mean when you say sell nothing? It's not that you're not selling anything, but it's not about the product or service even necessarily. It's do they trust Joe? and do they believe he's going to do the right thing for them? Is that what
it's that the relationship, which, or an emotional sale, which is in a sense, emotions are weird and fickle things and they change. It don't make sense. We can't even touch them. Even the community relationship. That's the nothing part. I'll also say this. It's one of the tenets in my book. Whoever's talking is buying. In a selling situation, if I'm talking more than you are, I'm literally buying your objections. If I get you talking more than me, you're buying whatever's in my bag.
Which brings me back to that selling is all about the questions, because how do you get your prospect to talk more than you do? Salespeople, look, you've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this a long time. My experience is certainly that salespeople love to present.
Yes.
They don't really care much about asking questions. Often they do it just because their manager told them, ask these 5 questions every time. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. But they love to give their presentation. And unless you've established a relationship with the prospect and ask the right questions, you really don't know what to give a presentation on, which is why so many people do what I call a product dump, or show up and throw up, or throwing up on the customer's shoes, which is the way the typical salesperson sells. And that makes the prospect think that we are like the typical salesperson. And you use the term, used car salesperson. Yeah. And personally, I want to avoid that at all costs. And I certainly know a couple of used car salespeople who are very honorable and good, but the standard thinking is they're scum of the earth and will say and do anything to get your money. And we don't want to be thought of that way.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes, again, like all the ickiness out. If I can't get them emotionally engaged, I'm not going to close. It just doesn't make sense. That's my job as a salesperson to do that. I'll take responsibility for that. But if I can't get them there, I'm saying, hey, why don't you think about it? And I don't even want to close. Doesn't make sense. Why?
My goal is always to have them close themselves. I do, of course, often have to ask a closing question, but I believe the goal of every sales process should be to get to the end and have the prospect say, sounds good, sign me up, except the majority don't do that. You still have to ask a question, but it should not be a fight. It should not be a battle at the end. First of all, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but if you're getting a bunch of objections after you've asked for somebody's business, you're doing it wrong. You should be uncovering those objections in the information gathering stage so that you don't get somebody at the end who says no, and now you've got to fight with them. Because I believe you'll never win a fight with a prospect. That they have the money, they can give you an appointment or not, they can choose to do business with you or not. What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. The objections, they're not going away. We know that. We know what they are. And we can address them, but I even kind of take it. I want them to address their own objections. They believe what they say more than what I say. I'm a sales guy. So my job as a sales is to get them talking. And most people have a dialogue or a script of what they're going to talk about. There's pieces you can overlay on top of it that really start addressing those questions and are getting those objections answered in advance.
Yeah, and you said it a moment ago. We know what the objections are. If you've been in sales for more than 2 weeks in any given company, you've already heard every objection you're going to hear for that product or service. And in my experience, I've never worked with a company that gets more than 5 objections. Salespeople think there's 8 million that they get. There's usually it's the same 2 or 3 or maybe 5 over and over, which means there's no excuse for a salesperson being in a selling situation, hearing, your price is too high. Huh. I never heard that before. Hold on a second. Let me look on page 54 of Joe's book.
Write that down. That's a new one. That's a new one for me.
Yeah. I think it's on page 57, right? How to handle that one of how to sell nothing, the logical way to make an emotion. Yeah.
Those objections aren't going away. And actually, to even look at it, people sometimes get worked up with objections. And I coach on this and saying, wait a minute, you're getting an objection. They didn't say no. They're still in the game. And it's just why do we have a bad taste in it? We know they're coming by me getting an objection saying, all right, we're still in the game. I want to, box that objection in, saying, clarify what it is. Make sure I know that. Saying, besides that, is there anything else that's holding you back? I mean, if we fix that one problem, that one objection, are we good? And then come back and say, okay, what was it you liked about it in the first place? Get them talking about what they want and why. Then I can answer the objection. Again, I don't want to sell, speak, teach, or train or anything until I get them emotionally engaged. If I get them an objection, there could be a logistical objection, but odds are they're not caught up. They're not with me mentally.
Yeah. I really believe that we have heard every objection. There's a type of objection that I call an every time objection. You're selling a product or service. You get that same one over and over and over. I say, bring it up before they do. It's going to be on their mind anyways. Bring it up. I'd rather uncover an objection or bring it up myself very early on in the process and find out I have no chance of closing this deal, shake hands and leave and go talk to somebody who's a real prospect, than invest weeks or months in then finding out I had no shot from the beginning. One of the things I always share with salespeople, and I'm betting you do too, is you got to protect your time, because that's the one thing we can't get back. We can almost always get our health back, not always, but almost always get our health back if we're sick. We can always make more money, but you'll never get back time. And I have no time to waste on people who aren't interested in doing business with me.
Absolutely. We learned that when we were door to door. We call it a suicide call. I'd go out and talk to the mom because, back, she was home then. This was years ago. And then I would have to come back. So let me talk to my husband. Come back. It's always a waste of time, and not that it's there's a little bit, you can take that too far, but you are right. You have to guard your time. If they're not with you, it's not a big deal. Shake them, give them their time back. It's actually helpful for them. It's a two-way street, my time and their time. So let's just both save us both some. Yeah,
we called that a one-legged pitch when the husband or the wife was home. Yeah. And with Encyclopedia, it was really fascinating. Everybody wanted Encyclopedia Britannica. It was at the time when Cadillac was thought of as the best car. Yeah. It was the Cadillac of encyclopedias. The only thing people wanted to know is, how much is it?
Yeah.
That's the only thing they cared about. And we refused. We were trained to never, ever, ever give the price unless somebody saw a full presentation and you had both people there. Because 45 plus years ago, it was $2,000 for a set of books that you could send your kids to use in the library for free. So we knew that if you get to the end and say, okay, Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones, it's $2,000. Oh, I didn't realize it was that expensive. I got to talk to my husband. I got to talk to my wife. And then you'd call the next day and say, did you talk to your wife? Yeah. She said, there's no way we're doing this, Jeff. Yep. It was absolutely a one call close. So I'm with you. Yep. One of the things you mentioned a couple of minutes ago is about being a relationship builder. And you say that the best outcomes flow from being a relationship builder first. Can you speak about that and also explain what are dig-in questions and how do they fill the emotional bucket?
Well, let's do the dig-in question first piece. It's really when I'm asking questions and it's getting me, and maybe I think of it this way. If they're saying something, my brain goes, well, why is that? And what they answer, well, why is that? And they answer, well, why is that? They answer, well, why is that? Now, you can't keep saying, why is that? Because that's creepy and weird.
Unless you're a little kid.
Yeah. Even then, it's annoying then too. Yeah. Let's add that to it. But digging questions are just getting me to say or ask why in a different way. And I need that. And that what I use fills up the emotional bucket. We'll talk. I'm going to go a long way around this answer. Hopefully that's all right.
Take it away, my friend.
And in sales, we let's just say you have a sales talk. This can mesh right on top of it. In sales, there's two sales that need to happen, or two buckets that need to be filled. Logical bucket, emotional bucket. They're both important. We're going to ask you kind of a silly question. Of the two buckets, Jeff, which one is more important, the logical or the emotional?
Well, anybody who's been doing this a while knows that you buy with emotion and back it up with logic.
Bingo. So we know that. We understand that. All right. In sales, my voice, the salesperson, my voice, the words that are coming out of my mouth fill up that emotional bucket. I'm good at it. I've got a marketing program. It's most of my script. It's my pitch. We have it down. We're really good at filling up that bucket. The emotional bucket, and this is the essence of Sell Nothing, is filled up with their voice. It's what they want and why they want it. And I need to ask questions, dig in questions, fill up their emotional bucket. If I get both buckets filled, I'll get the next step.
Hang on. I just want to clarify. I think you said that we fill up the logical bucket initially, but we actually fill up the emotional bucket?
No. The salesperson fills up the logical bucket.
Okay. I think you might have said it reverse before, but
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks for catching that.
I'm with you.
Yeah. My prospect, their words fill up the emotional bucket. That's what I need. And that's my job as a salesperson to do that. And let's say, here's a better example. We've gone on these sales pitches where it's really good. I mean, let's just say we're out and it's before COVID and it's face-to-face and you're sitting down, you're establishing rapport and you look at the fish in the wall and there's your buddy from fourth grade and you talk about that guy. And it's just an emotional connection. He's laughing at my jokes. He's asking questions and he says, Joe, can you come back in 2 weeks? I'd like to see your proposal. I've got both buckets filled. I've got the next step. 2 weeks come by, coming back in to see him, and I'm thinking it's good. And I come in and start talking to him, and he says, "Hey, Joe, great. I'm glad you see this. Two things. I got meeting called across town, so we're going to have to cut this a little bit short, but I want to see your pitch. I want to hear your pitch." And we jump in and we give it, and it's a different meeting. It's like they're cold. Their arms are crossed. They're not laughing at your jokes. And you end with, "Can you call me back in a week? Can you call me back next quarter?" We never get back in to see them. That is a huge problem for us. And the buckets, if you look at it that context, this is what happened. Both buckets filled, I got the next step. Let's talk about the buckets. The logical bucket is finite. You have a bucket that's filled with water. Can you put more water in it?
Not if it's filled, no.
Okay. If you have a client logically sold, can we sell logic anymore?
No.
It's the same thing. The emotional bucket, that has holes in it. Because again, emotions are weird and fickle and they change. They don't make sense. When I left that meeting 2 weeks ago, I had both buckets filled. When I come back in 2 weeks, odds are the emotional bucket's empty. They're not going to re-engage. They're not going to take the next step until I get them to fill up their emotional bucket. That's what the dig-in questions do. And my job as a second sales meeting, and this reason people have struggled with that second meeting, is they jump right back in, start selling logic that are already full. We haven't got them emotionally engaged. They'd be better off served, even though someone says, "Hey, I want to see your pitch." They're asking for the logical. They want to go logical. We want to go logical. Or my sales talk is logical. We got to fight to stay back. Said, "Okay, we can do that." But let me come back. Jeff, let me ask you, when we met 2 weeks ago, you were saying that you were really interested in this. Tell me more about that. That's a dig-in question. Well, what would that look like? To answer your question, what dig-in questions are is, here's some examples. Can you say that again? What does that look like? Help me out. What else? I'm asking dig-in question after dig-in question because I need their words to fill up that bucket at the first meeting and 2 weeks later, the second meeting. And every time I got to come in and check and see how emotionally engaged are they before I go with logic. And I threw a lot at you. That was a long answer. Hopefully I answered your question.
Oh, that was perfect. So when you come back, they've forgotten what a great time we had and all the laughing we did and how great it felt. And now if you just go in and do it's like a salesperson who walks into a first meeting and, says, "Hi, and, I like your fish on the wall," or whatever they say to establish rapport, which is stupid. There's better ways, but at any rate, you got to do something. Yep. And then they say something like, "Thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy. Here's what we've got for you. Here's why our company is the greatest. Our product or our service is the greatest in the world." And then they throw up all over them. And there is no emotional connection. And by the way, in my opinion, and I think probably yours too, that's what the salesperson wants to do, because they want to get right to the point so they can get on to their next sales call. That's what the prospect wants you to do so they can get on to the rest of their day. It's just not what works.
I would agree. And you put it now in the Zoom virtual meeting, we're really wired to go logical quicker. You think about it, before we would have time to have the coffee talk and hear about the grandkids. That's the relationship piece. Well, we've shifted. We want to get logical, get to the point, and get to our presentation. So do they. I think, and I'm coaching on this, that we're at risk. The clients we had before COVID, we've established that relationship. We can retain them. But since we've had just a virtual relationship, I think that the emotional connection is really kind of weak.
Yeah,
our clients or your clients could be at risk because we haven't established that. And it's really hard to get back and talk about that because they don't want to either.
Yeah, it's why so many demos fail.
Yeah,
because all they're doing is saying, "Here's our widget. Here's how it works. Look at how cool it is. Look at the interface. It's all great." But there's no emotion there. They haven't bought in. I always say, unless you can transfer your excitement about your product or service to the prospect, they're not going to part with their money. And you do that emotionally.
I would piggyback my excitement, but I actually get them to tell me what they want and why they want. That's their excitement as well. It's both. Because if I don't do that, I'm selling chicken shit. I'm selling the they don't care. It's the same stuff. So how do you get the prospect to share what they want and why they want it? You can't just walk in and say, "What do you want and why do you want it?" Yeah, I mean, write that down. That's a good, no.
Hi, I'm Jeff. What do you want? I sell sales training. What do you want? How much of it?
Yeah.
Let me just write up your order.
And I need to cut me a check right now. there's, we have our dialogues, our sales talks. There's a earning acronym that I coach on. And it's kind of like having a battle plan before the battle. The night before, we're all organized. We know what's going to happen. The battle starts. You take the plan, you chuck it out the window. What's the same with sales calls? We think it's going to go this way. We have a plan that goes out the window. But earning is an acronym that keeps us on track. It's never going to go in this order. We don't have to use every step. But let's just say hypothetically, it's earning. We have to earn the right to ask for the next step. And each letter stands for a topic I want to cover. E just stands for I need to evaluate their current reality. It's our data gather. And I think we do a pretty good job with it. We need to know that, but I look at it mentally. If I'm showing you a similar product, an apples to apples comparison, I need to ask enough questions so I know what type of apples you have. And you need to know that I know what type of apples you're starting with. Otherwise, you're not going to go forward. If I'm showing you something different, apples to oranges, I still need to ask enough questions to know what type of apples you're starting with. And again, you need to know where I'm starting with. Otherwise, you're not going to have confidence in me. So E stands for evaluate their current reality. Spelling out earning. A.
This is your actual sales system. You beat me to the question I was just about to ask you. You have a sales system called earning.
Correct.
Got it.
So that's the E. A is I'll literally ask them, hey, Jeff, what are some things that are going really well? What do you like about your current vendor? I literally ask that question. A stands for the advantages. What are the advantages of what you're doing right now? And I get pushback from my clients saying, Joe, I don't want to say that. I'm actually talking them into staying with their current vendor. And I love asking that question for 3 reasons. 1, I get different results, or my clients get different results because we do something different. This is different. 2, that screams confidence. If you're asking, what do you like about your current vendor? Boy, that's a confident question. And business is generally given to confident people. But the biggest reason, by me simply asking, what do you like about what you're currently doing? You're telling me your hot buttons. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, ding, ding, ding. I got to close on that, whether in 5 minutes or 5 weeks or 5 months. And I'm not going to know until you tell me. E and the A. R, revise. What do you want to change? This is the major reason why they're going to go forward. We all know that, but I don't lead off with it. I ask what they're currently doing. I ask, what do they like about it? Now they're going to tell me. And personally, I'm of the mindset, and maybe I'm biased or I've trained my brain to think this way, but if I'm talking to someone, they have a problem with sales or sales leadership. Otherwise, I would not be there. We're too busy. 100%. We don't have time for that.
No, nobody lets you or me into their office unless they're interested in nobody lets anybody into their office unless they have some interest. Nobody wants to just waste time with a salesperson.
Absolutely.
100%.
So that's really that main reason why they're going to go forward. What do they want to change? And I want to know that. Again, have not started talking about my product yet. So EARN. No. Who can say no to this? Who else needs to be involved in the decision-making process? Most frustrating thing in sales is go out and give a pitch. It's great. And says, hey, Joe, I got to go talk to my boss and see what she wants to do. Well, great. Now I got to come back in and do my dog and pony show for her again. Or worse, you're going to sell my product for me and you're not an expert on me. And you're going to sell me for me and you're not an expert on me. There are some times that I will politely and professionally back out of that presentation if I don't have the right people there. Sometimes you can't. I get it. Or maybe I won't give the price, or I'll try it. I'm really cautious of that. Again, it's not 100%, but I do feel it's important. I need to know who else needs to be involved in this decision-making process. So that's no.
100%. Before you go on, because I want to get all the letters, but I can't resist. I mean, so often salespeople, first, me personally, I refuse to talk to anybody except somebody who can make a decision. I just won't. But in our business, we know it's a VP of sales, EVP, SVP, a president, or a CEO. I don't meet with sales managers. I like sales managers, but they can't sign checks. And my experience is that the typical salesperson, when they're trying to find out if someone is a decision maker, asks the wrong question, like they do in many situations. And the question they ask is, hey, Joe, are you the decision maker? And everybody in that situation goes, oh, yeah, I make all the decisions here. I know it says janitor on my door, but I make all the decisions. Just once, Joe, I would like to say to somebody, are you the decision maker here? And have them say to me, I'm so far from a decision maker. I'm embarrassed for you that you're in my office. I'm so unimportant here. If I was on fire, they wouldn't put me out, but they never do that.
No.
So you have to ask better questions. What I teach, and maybe you have a good question too, is the last time your company made a decision like this, how'd you go about it and who was involved? Because
Yep.
if they say anything other than I made a decision, I know I'm not talking to the right person. And
Yep.
you're 100% right. There's nobody who you can talk to in an organization that can go to their boss and sell Joe as good as Joe can sell Joe.
Yeah. I'd piggyback onto that question. Said if they said you're as far as decision making process, is this kind of up to you? And they'll say, yeah, like you said, great, because I always like making sure I'm talking to the person who can do this stuff. So thanks, I appreciate that. If they're the person, they'll go on. If they're not, they'll say, well, I need to check with Bob. And well, yeah, I assume that I'm letting them save face. I don't want to do that, but they will tell me who the other person is, and usually I can get a name out of that.
Awesome. All right, we were up to the I, EARN, N with the no.
Yeah. So evaluate the current reality. A is for the advantages. R is revise. N is who can say no to this. The first I. And if you want one tip that you can apply tomorrow or today that'll have advantages, this is it. I is simply interpret back what they just said. It's just say, hey, Jeff, just for clarity, I want to take a few minutes and just repeat back what I heard to make sure I got it right. And I really don't wait for an answer. It's kind of a command statement. And then I just start going through, and I've been taking notes on all the E, the A, everything else, everything they're saying. And I just puke it back to them. And you'll hear things like, well, crap, Pallo, you said it better than I did. And mentally, I'm on the same side of the table they're on. They're thinking, this guy gets me, and I have not even started selling yet. That's the relationship piece by interpreting back. Biggest complaint with salespeople is no one listens to me. And there's even once a seminar years ago where they said, here's some techniques to look like you're listening. Well, why don't we just listen?
So I'm smiling because this is a smile of recognition. Yeah. I call that the confirmation step. Yeah. And salespeople almost never do it. It's the quickest step. It's the easiest step. But when you don't feed back what you think you heard, you run the risk of putting together a proposal based on bad information, because sometimes we hear something wrong. Sometimes the prospect doesn't explain it well. So by doing what you're talking about, the I, you're guaranteeing that you are on the same page. Yep. And they, like you just said, the prospect feels, here's somebody who gets me. They actually listen to what I was saying. Love that.
Yep. So just interpret back what they just said. Brilliant. Not say, how'd I do? And say, you did good. I mean, it's just, I've distanced myself from every other salesperson, every other competitor I have. We're talking about a relationship. Boy, I'm making some big moves right there by doing that. So the EARNI, interpret back. The next N, nothing. Just curious, Jeff, what if nothing changes? And I ask that because that creates a sense of urgency. And when I ask that, I'm going to get fluff. It's not really a good answer. Well, we'll be all right. I mean, we'll probably be in the same spot we were in last year. Okay, then I come in and say, well, what else? 2 words are most valuable in sales, the most underused are what else. But when I ask, what if nothing changes, I'm almost always going to ask, what else? Tell me more about that. What would that look like? I am getting them really uncomfortable professionally. It's an emotional engagement, but I'm making them think about what happens if this problem is not solved. And that's a big one. The big mistake is people ask, what if nothing changes? They don't camp out on that. They check the box, ask the question, moved on. I stay there because, again, I want them emotionally engaged. This is an emotional engagement. What if nothing changes?
Yeah, because if they say, we'll be fine, then in my head, it's like, then what am I doing here?
Yeah.
If you're going to be fine if nothing changes, why are you wasting your time talking to a guy like me or Joe?
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, well, when you say fine, what does that mean? And then I'm getting them talking about, well, I guess we'll be all right. And what about, and then you ask your questions. That's where we got to think on our toes. And they should have been giving you enough answers to ask some really good questions with that. Right. And then the G is, what is the gain? What is the pay value? If you fix this problem, let's say this problem was resolved and you took 2 hours off your plate, what would you do with those 2 hours? What's the gain? That's the value. That earning piece can dovetail in on top of every sales talk that's out there. Now, looking at it, most of earning is filling up the logical bucket. And that's okay. So in between, I'm doing that earning piece. I'm asking those dig-in questions. Well, what else? Well, what does that look like? Can you give me an example? Help me out with that. I'm asking dig-in question after dig-in question after dig-in question, because that's what I'm going to need to have them fill up that emotional bucket. That's what I'm going to need 2 weeks from now when I come back and pitch it again. Or when I'm interpreting back that whole paragraph that I'm reading, those are my notes for the next meeting, the follow-up meeting. That's where I start. That's the biggest mistake in sales. We don't come back to that piece right there. So that's the earning piece combined with the digging questions. And again, I was using that example. If I'm on a sales call and I'm doing all that, and I'm asking digging question, followed by digging question, followed by digging question, we've recorded that and we edit out my voice. I've got a recording of a person sitting there telling me everything I need to know to sell them. And it comes to the piece. It's easier to sell what they want to buy than sell what I want to sell. If I've gone through the earning piece and the digging questions, there's no ickiness in sales. It's like,
You're
all right,
serving.
yeah. And there's no pressure. And think about how confident you are closing. There's no, I mean, I could, yeah. What's the next step? Usually I get that asked, well, Joe, what do we do next? They're closing themselves.
Yep. Love that. And do you discuss the earning system in your book, How to Sell Nothing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's if you want to go to convertsalesfaster.com, convertsalesfaster.com, there's a free download. You can have it spelled out right there. Convertsalesfaster.com.
By the way, my friend Regina Bonello, good morning, Regina, says she loves the bucket analogy. I do too, Regina. And we're a little more than halfway through this interview with Joe Pallo, the author of How to Sell Nothing. We're going to take a 60-second break for a word from our sponsor, which is me. Hi, I'm Jeff Goldberg, the founder of the Sales Pro Network. For nearly 5 decades, I've been selling, managing, coaching, and training salespeople internationally. And I'm often asked for one-on-one or private coaching, but it does involve a substantial investment. For that reason, I've recently developed the Sales Pro Insider Network community. It works like this. We get together twice a month on Tuesday nights from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. At the first session of the month, it's you and me, with me taking your questions and giving you the advice and help you need to both prospect and sell more effectively. At the second session of the month, we'll have a guest coach speaking on a fascinating topic that helps sellers like you and me. And of course, we'll do group coaching then too. The best part is the investment is just $27 for the first month, and there's no long-term contract at all. In fact, you can cancel it anytime. Go to crushsalesgoals.com. That's crushsalesgoals.com. I hope to see you there. I'm really excited about my guest coach. It's going to be the 27th, Tuesday the 27th. Her name is Patty Johnston, and she's a procrastination expert. She helps people beat procrastination in 30 days. And I don't know about you, I can always use more ways to beat procrastination, and she's fantastic. Really love it. Anybody who's interested in attending as my guest, if you haven't attended one before, just DM me through the Sales Pro Network or on LinkedIn. I'll be glad to send you a link where you can register for free. We're talking to Joe Pallo, the author of How to Sell Nothing and the Earning System. Joe, one of the things that clients, every client I work with wants is a shorter sales cycle, whether it's on the private coaching or the corporate training side. Everybody wants to shorten their sales cycle. What are your thoughts on how can we condense our sales cycle?
It's funny. There's a lesson that I just in the middle of learning right now, and I'll share it with you, but it deals with the selling cycle. And it came out with, me selling my book, and I was mailing it to clients and prospects, and I would get a phone call or call them up afterwards. And it was a gift. I wouldn't, it was a gift. Yeah, Joe, hey, thanks for getting it. Hadn't had a chance to read it yet. So that put some time on it. So I said, well, all right, let's fix that. Got an audio version of the book. And when I follow up, said, I haven't had time to use audiobooks. I'll send them a link to the audio copy of the book. So that shortened the selling cycle. Then I realized I'm still adding time to it. I would even go through Cliff Notes inside a copy of the book. Here are the highlights of the books and little Cliff Notes for it to shorten the selling cycle. But then I realized, hello, you dork. I think the procrastination or what we're letting along is it's in my thinking. I've gotten clients who have never heard me, sign them up for coaching. I get referred to them. All my business is referral based. Get referred to them. There's a process in there. My referrals are pretty valuable. With never hearing a word about me, it's a one-call close. That's how I do my business. I don't need to have them read my book or listen to it. And the part that I'm figuring out is by me sending a copy of the book, I changed, well, they got to read my book before I could do it. I don't need that. So the selling cycle piece, I think a lot of it in answer question, it's our thinking about it. I need to have this step done. No, you don't. I've gotten tons of business for 13 years doing this, not having a website, not having a book, not doing podcasts. I just got referrals, and that they didn't know anything about me. So that was one aspect of it. As far as the selling cycle, it really is, if you can get them emotionally engaged and I use that to key up the next meeting, the next conversation, and I use that to start it. That's what does it. They have to consistently be hearing themselves say what they want and why they want it, and be reminded of it at every single meeting. And at that second meeting, when I am coming back and I want to, again, fill up that emotional bucket because I've got it all before, went through the earning piece and I have the digging questions, and I repeated back what I said at that first meeting. When I come back second meeting 2 weeks later, I'll touch on it, but the value is in their voice. They need to say it. It's not me. I have the ability. I can read it back. Now, you said this was important. This is important. I'll touch on it. I'll give them a bone or give them an answer and say, tell me more about that, and just shut up.
Mhm.
Let them fill up their bucket. That's how we keep the selling cycle moving.
Yeah. The other thing, and you mentioned it briefly, almost as an aside, but I think it's crucial. If you want to shorten your sales cycle, never end a meeting or a phone call without setting up the next meeting or phone call.
Well, absolutely.
Always get that best next action step
Yeah.
towards yes, which I call be nasty. Best next action step toward yes.
Yeah.
So many times I see salespeople ending meetings like, okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to write up a proposal, and I'll as soon as I've got that, I'll give you a call, and we'll get together again. I'll review it, and that way you'll have some great information to make a decision with. And then they never pick up the phone again.
Yeah.
They never, because they're busy. It may not even be that they're not interested, but we are not the most important things on their mind. So by always setting that next meeting while you're talking to somebody, you're shaving, I say, 1 to 3 weeks off your sales cycle every single time you do it. And so many salespeople just don't.
And absolutely too. And all on top of that, if you and I are talking, let's set up a meeting 2 weeks. Okay, Thursday the 8th, we're good. Have it on our calendar. Something happens where you send me a text or email, hey, I can't make it, because that's usually what happens. I now have the ability to call your admin and say, hey, I had an appointment with Jeff and he had to move it. Can we reschedule? Once I'm on the calendar, we can move it down without even having to engage with you directly. We have that option. If we're not on the calendar, it's hard to get on the calendar. Once you're on it, we can get booked pretty easy.
Exactly right. 100%. I always say that's the most important thing I teach. Of all the things I teach salespeople, that one's the most important. You mentioned something else a minute ago, though, that I'm very big on. You are a referral expert. In fact, all sellers want more referrals, but most of them suck at getting them. Those are your words, and I agree. What's the silver bullet method? Because that's your method for getting referrals. What's the silver bullet method? What's the secret to being a referral master? How could we craft a winning referral strategy? And why do we typically get in our own way when we're asking for referrals? It's crazy.
It's a great set of questions. They only got about 20 minutes and I got about 3 hours of answers. So here's the big piece.
Well, I think everybody's interested.
Yeah, nice. First of all, let's look at our thinking. And actually, I put on a class or just created a referral roadmap that does this. But first part, with the referrals, we have to change our thinking. We suck at referrals. When we started selling, you sucked at everything. Well, we got better at different parts of the sales. Let's say it's establishing trust or creating a buying atmosphere or asking digging questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, we're up here at a 10 on a lot of different pieces of our business. Except in referrals. This one sliver or a colander or a cylinder of our business, we're still rookies. We're winging it. We're like, there's nothing passive about referrals. And we're like, it's, oh, by the way, referrals are more important than the sale. So the first part with referrals is we have to think differently. They are more important than the sale. And I say that in a context that this is years ago, I was at Tom James selling custom suits, went and pitched a guy, and he said no. He did not even buy from me, but he gave me 4 referrals because he liked me. He liked my questions. Or he liked how I act. 18 months later, I had 80 clients at Thrivent Financial from a no. Another guy, Mike Conroy, St. Paul Company, insurance company. They're now Travelers Out East. Sent him a mailer. He gave me 3 referrals. 2 years later, I had 150 clients there. I had my own parking spot. I had an ID. Referrals are more important than the sale. So that's the thinking of it. We have to understand that. And we're rookies right now. Second part is when we ask for referrals, we have to get them saying what they like about working with me before I ask. It's just like you don't come in and close. Say, hey, you need this much term, this much disability, cut me a check. Well, referrals is a sale. We got to treat it like a sale. So before I ask for referrals, I would say, hey, Jeff, just curious. We've been working together for past 2 years. We've taken this problem, A, B, and C. Want to get some feedback. What do you like about working with me or my team? I gave you a couple answers. I get you to tell me what you like about working with me. It's what are the advantages? And then my referral ask as a pivot, Jeff, who are 2 people that appreciate those things? It's that simple. It's our thinking and having a script for your referrals. That's the second piece is once you have your thinking, we need some scripts. No, you don't have to say it word for word. You have to know it. You have to be confident because referrals are given to confident people. And having a script, it screams confidence. You know what you're going to say. Because most people, when they're doing referrals or even selling, they're thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? We're not listening. If you know your script and you know what you're going to say, you can listen at a different level. That's key. So your thinking on referrals has to change. You're not a rookie. This part has been sorely neglected in your career, and it's exponential. That's how people double their business is just working on this one little column. We have to have some scripts and talking points that I can't create. I'll give them the bones, but they have to have their personality into it. I can't do that. They need that. Then the third piece is how to get more value out of the referrals. And that's what I call silver bullets. The people that I want to get referred to, they're busy people. And odds are the people that you want to get referred to or your audience members want to get referred to, a name and a number is not enough.
No.
I mean, we've got that. Yeah, it's a referral. It's nothing there. So when I get a referral, I want to get a silver bullet attached to it. And I don't even count them as a referral unless I get a silver bullet. Definition of a silver bullet. It's a little personal bit of information that I know that the average Joe on the street doesn't know. Some information that I know that the average Joe on the street doesn't know. And I want to use that silver bullet to draft off of the referee's relationship onto that first voicemail or onto that first call or onto that first meeting. And it's getting from the referees at the time of the referrals, generally speaking. Let's say you referred me to Bill Anderson. We go through, you tell me the basic stuffs. You know, how long have you worked and what does he do? We know that. But then I want to draft and say, well, what do you, how long have you known him? I said, what type of decision maker is he? I'm literally making you think about Bill Anderson. Well, okay, I guess I help you out. Is he a numbers guy? Is he a driver? Is he a talker? So if I'm getting referrals, you refer me to Bill Anderson, ask some general questions. Say, hey, just curious, what type of decision maker is he? A numbers guy, a driver, or a talker? That's good information for me to know. But it's also making you think about Bill Anderson. And then I take that a step further and say, hey, Jeff, just curious, what do you respect most about Bill Anderson? And they're like, oh, man, I got to think. Yeah, that right there is you're thinking about that relationship. That's what I need to draft onto. That's how I get that. Some examples of a silver bullet. These are real ones. Mark referred me to Aaron. He said he's a great guy. He's got my level. He's in a different city. Good family guy. Very hard worker. Very progressive. He's not a meathead. Literally, what I'm just writing all that down. I called Aaron. Said, Aaron, hey, I'm a script guy. I said, Aaron, hey, it's Joe Pallo. We haven't actually met yet, so I don't want you racking your brain trying to figure out who I am. Mark mentioned your name, and he said you're not a meathead. 612-805-7576. And I hung up.
That's great.
You know what happened 5 minutes later?
I'm betting that the not a meathead called you.
Aaron called me. Became a good friend, good client, and he is a meathead. He loves it when I tell that story. But that's a silver bullet.
Yep, it's great.
And it just works where literally you can leave that message and you get your referrals calling you back. And talk about shortening the selling cycle. That relationship is just enhanced that much more.
Yes.
Referrals, that's where it comes from. So a silver bullet, I will not call a silver bullet a referral unless I get a silver bullet. They're too important. They're too valuable. And just a side note too, something that if you want your listeners can apply tomorrow, we've all got a stack of business cards or referrals over the last 6 months or last 6 years. And we don't throw them away because they're valuable, but we've called them. We can't do anything with them, but they still bother you every time their name comes up in the CRM. Oh, dang it. I left a message. They didn't get anywhere with them. Well, what's to stop you to go back and get those old dead referrals to refresh them? I think referrals are kind of like fish and relatives. After 3 days, they start to stink and they got to go. We got to keep them fresh. So let's just say that you've got a referral to somebody. You've left a message, maybe even talked to them. You didn't get anywhere. Okay. Call the referee back and let's get a silver bullet on them. It's something you can do tomorrow and just say, hey, you know, about 4 months ago, you referred me to Bill Anderson and tried to catch up and they didn't. Just curious, how long have you known him? Great. And I asked before, but what type of decision maker is he? A numbers guy, a driver, or a talker? Great. Just curious, what do you respect most about Bill? Get your silver bullets. What's a funny story about him? You can go back right now tomorrow and refresh every referral you have sitting there just by getting a silver bullet and get them to call you back. That's how my whole business is run. I hate to go on a rant here, but there's one other key piece. When you get silver bullets and you leave a message with one of, don't use them all because you can drip on them. Don't roll them all in one shot.
Right.
You can drip on them. They will call you back. And this is hard when we're dealing with salespeople because I got referred to somebody. They're calling me back. I'm on the phone. Don't give your pitch then. It's hard because we're talking to the person I want to talk to, but I don't want to do that because one, I don't want to get them emotionally engaged and they say, hey, Joe, I'm jumping on a flight. Can you call me back? I've lost all that momentum. So when I get a silver bullet and I leave that message, I get a referral with a silver bullet and I leave a message with a silver bullet on it, put their number on the phone so I can see who it is who calls me back. I will answer the call and say, hey, Jeff, thanks for calling back. I appreciate it. I mean, I apologize. I'm actually jumping in. I got something to start in a minute. I saw it was you. Can we set up a time for next week?
Yeah.
I do not go into my pitch right there.
Of course.
I do for three reasons. One, just because I don't know what's going on. I don't want to get short-sighted. Two, this gently puts me in control of the call. When I'm in sales or we're selling, it's our show. This gently does that. But here's the biggest reason. It allows me to be focused on that sales call. You know, I probably have a skill set where I could wing it and do a sales call and wouldn't be that big a deal. It's too important. I mean, you look at your average transaction size, if it's 10,000 or 18,000 or whatever the number is, it's that important. That call is worth 15,000 or whatever that number is. If I don't do that call right, I'm not going to get it. So in my mind, that's $15,000 for that 1 hour. I have to be focused. By me setting that time up allows me to clear my desk, get focused, look at everything, and okay, it's on. And that's the biggest reason. I need to be focused on that call, and I need to make sure it's that important to me. In the silver bullet, when they call you back, I coach on, let's not set that appointment. Let's not run that sales call. Let's set an appointment for down the road.
That's great. I love the idea of silver bullets and finding out those little things that you might be able to use. One of the things that I do is when somebody says they're going to make an introduction for me, these days I find more people do the introduction via email than they do calls. It used to be that everybody would pick up the phone, but I always say, first of all, thank you so much for offering to refer me. Would it help you if I write the email introduction? I'll send it to you, Joe. Edit it any way you want, but if you like it, you can just cut and paste it into a new email, send it on, copy me, and I'll take over from there. And everybody says yes to that, as you can imagine, because you're saving them the time. But what I'm really doing is two things. One is I'm going to do it immediately. You may make that introduction for me sometime in the next couple of weeks, whenever you get around to it, but I'm going to make sure it happens immediately. The other thing is, when you forward on my email, which you're almost definitely going to do instead of rewriting it because it saves you some time, that person who receives it is going to hear what I want them to hear about me instead of what you want to say about me. And while I trust you, Joe, to know what to say about another sales expert, I don't trust everybody else to do it as well as I do. And I'll give you a quick, you'll laugh at this. I got a referral one time. My friend didn't even tell me he was making the introduction, copies me on the email. Hey, Steve, I'd like you to meet Jeff Goldberg. He's a very competent sales trainer, blah, 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 blah. So I call my friend and I go, Bob, thank you so much for the referral. I didn't expect that. Really kind. I'm just curious, why did you introduce me to Steve as a competent sales trainer? And he said, well, you are a very competent sales trainer. And I said, well, thank you for that. But I got to tell you, I'm so much better than competent. I can't even see it in the rearview mirror. I'm amazing. I'm stunning. I'm phenomenal. I get great results. Why didn't you say anything like that? And my friend Bob said to me, you're all those things. I just don't like to oversell. So I want the recipient to hear what I want to say about me, not what they want to say about me. I have another question I want to get to, and we are running out of time.
Sure.
You mentioned that you work for the Tom James Company. And years ago, when you were working for Tom James, you went to a training seminar, and you saw an interesting exercise about removing limits on ourselves. Do you know what I'm talking about? And if so, can you share that story?
It was at just a weekly sales meeting. Matt Parsons had a real simple idea. Matt's a simple guy. No, I can say that he's a good friend. He'd like hearing that. But we were talking about vision and goals and our beliefs. And he said, had one of us take a piece of tape and just put it on the wall as high as we could and reach up there and put it up there. He goes, well, now here's another piece. See if you can get it higher. And then did higher. Now here's another piece of tape. really focus on getting it higher. And each time it kept going up. It literally, it was just such a simple idea. It's our thinking that needs to change. Put this as high as you can, reached up. Well, by asking the same question, jumping, you got there, and eventually got a chair and got it really high. So it's just it's very basic, but we really have to look at things from a different way and keep on saying, what can I do different? Is this really the right way? Just because it's always been done is probably one of the worst things that we've ever thought, or a process. We've always done it that way. Well, that's not the best. So challenging, I think that's the piece of it. That simple thought that Matt shared with us is just keep challenging your thinking and challenging yourself. There's no limits.
Yeah, we do put limits on ourselves. Almost every client that comes to me, when I ask them, what's in the way of your success, they almost always say the same thing: myself. Yeah. We're our own worst enemy. Me too. Yeah. But that's why working with a coach like you is so important, because coaches can look outside of ourselves and help us see things that we can't see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Before we go, because we only got a couple minutes left, I always love to ask people this, because I think it's on every salesperson's mind. Prospecting is a part of what we do, whether you're strictly referral or doing anything else. What are some of the ways that you suggest, other than getting referrals, that salespeople should be using to prospect effectively today?
I think it goes to the part that you have to give value in order to get that observation or just recognition. I don't know. Marketing is something that definitely helps people catch your attention, but it's got to be value. I give away books or free value all the time. We don't
like this one, How to Sell Nothing: The Logical Way to Make an Emotional Sale by Joe Pallo.
Correct.
Which I believe you can get on Amazon, but we'll show you a slide in a minute.
Correct. But that's a good way to providing value, helping them out with something. That is the biggest piece. I mean, yes, marketing is effective, but until you get to that connection, that's just kind of a billboard. I need to have that conversation. I need to provide value right away. Give them an idea, help them out. It can be humor, but I don't think we really focus on the relationship right away at the beginning of the emotional relationship at the beginning of our interactions. We don't have that focus right away. It's got to be a big piece. They got to know I'm providing value. I'm looking out for them. It's not about me. They don't care.
So give before you get. I got that. Do you suggest people should be cold calling, using email, LinkedIn? I mean, what are the methods that you teach people?
It's again, I'm going back to my history of doing this. It is the referrals with the silver bullets. You don't need much more. I mean, I even say you don't need the marketing, but just go and get some referrals. If you have good clients and you've taken care of them, it's right there. It's the whole thing. Just like we talked about mentally, thinking about referrals like the piece of tape. There's a mental thought in our head that we're not thinking about referrals. If I'm doing business with you, I've established enough trust where you can give me the name of your neighbor or a counterpart or your brother or something like that. The relationship's there. We don't understand the value of that. So it is very much looking at my current relationships, drafting off of them and get new introductions. It's our thinking on that piece. It's a real simple answer, but I try to simplify things pretty much.
No, that's great. The number one reason I find that salespeople don't get referrals is they just don't ask.
Yeah.
They just don't ask. And, we think that if we do such a great job, people will automatically give us referrals. And that certainly is the goal, to have you do such a fantastic job that people can't wait to refer you. Like I refer my coach constantly. She's never once asked for referrals. She never needed to. She's amazing at what she does. She's not a sales coach, of course, but she's phenomenal. But for most salespeople, ask. If you're waiting for people to offer referrals, you may be waiting a long time, but they may just have 2 or 3 or 5 they can give you if you simply say the words. And Joe, we have run out of time, so I'm going to share my screen. Would you please tell people how they can reach you if they're interested in your book or working with you or anything like that?
The simplest way is just go to my website, sellnothing.co, sellnothing.co. Couldn't afford the M. Bitcoin company bought sellnothing.com and it cost $10,000 for the letter M. So sellnothing.co. You can get a hold of me on there. My book, they can go to Amazon and get my book there. Convert Sales Faster is where the free download with the earning piece is on there. Just pop in your email there and it'll walk you through that process. So sellnothing.co and everything just should be on there.
Gotcha. And don't you also have silverbullet.co or .com?
Yes, we get Silver Bullet referrals where I can go through that. That'll be on the website where it walks you through the process of how to get that added value, how do you draft off of their relationship. So silverbullets.com, that's on the website as well.
Fabulous. Well, Joe, thank you so much. This hour flew by. I could talk to you all day about selling and advice about that stuff, but we do have to go. I appreciate you generously sharing your brilliance. And once again, the book is called How to Sell Nothing, the logical way to make the emotional sale. And I'll end this as I always do. Gang, please remember that sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great weekend, Joe. Thanks again.
Thanks, Jeff.